What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 158. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat, join on the conversation, and all the fun live on that day. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. It drops over on YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, whether it's leaving a review, writing a comment, sharing it with the people you know and love. It may seem small, but it does help us out and help us grow. So anything you could do, we would be greatly appreciative of that. So today, what are we going to be talking about? Well, it's a shorter topic, or not a shorter topic, a shorter podcast than last week, which it seems like you guys enjoyed that episode, so thank you very much for checking that out. Today, we're going to be talking, at least to start, about some fun drama. And fun is maybe not the word I would use for the shitstorm that is happening, at least right now. And maybe I'm being over dramatic. That'll probably mean most of this podcast. So, if you don't know what's going on with WWE, let me lay it out for you. So, recent events, Vince McMahon has decided to come back to WWE, and rumors are swirling around that he is going to sell the company, and we'll go from there. So, the reason this is such a, I guess, controversial or like just dramatic, energy-fueled discussion, at least from me, is just because of the events that have transpired with Vince himself and the WWE in the past 6 months. We've talked about wrestling a whole bunch, obviously, here on this show, whether it was with guests on our own, WWE, different companies, etc., etc. And you guys should know, big wrestling fan. So WWE's always been my bread and butter, as it is with a lot of people. At least that's, where you kind of get your start, and then you can kind of dive into the different companies and branches if you so care to. And it's been an interesting 6 months to see where we're ending now, and it was kind of like this bag of emotions, like, oh, that's bad, a lot of excitement, and now we're back into this turmoil and negative feelings mode, or at least scared, I guess maybe be the right term, of what could happen, will happen, etc. So, let's talk about the Vince stuff to start. So like I said, this is kind of what's been going on in the past 6 months. Now, granted, I may miss some pieces. I'm going to try and go as chronological, is that even a word? Chronological, Jesus. As I can, but, everything, take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of better news outlets, media outlets, journalists that have covered this stuff. So if I do miss something or forget something, I do apologize. I'll try and summarize it the best I can and kind of go through what has happened with our friend Vince here. So, about 6 months ago, around SummerSlam time, so I want to say July, August, an article got posted about Vince and some allegations he was facing, some misconduct that he had with a former employee, and some not good stuff that he was forcing or having them do sexually, between the parties, whatever. So this party came forward, said that was happening, the allegations, and Vince retired, aka just kind of scooted off to the side because of all this stuff. And obviously, not good that was going on, and a big yikes. So he gets kicked out and retires from that. So, we hope everything obviously goes in the best route there. If this situation is true, obviously we want the victims to, come forward and be safe, and the bad people not to do that again. And we want to get it all squared away, right? So there's evidence about that where some money was missing from WWE funds in terms of all the charts and all that jazz. So he had paid off people using company money, whatever. So we got that. So he's exited. Company-wise, big changes. Stephanie McMahon, his daughter, and another guy, Nick Khan, co-CEOs. So they're running it together. And Triple H is put in charge of all creative. Now, as a wrestling fan, great. I'm not the biggest fan of Stephanie, but it seems like a lot of the employees and people who work with her love her, and she's a great person. So, like, as a person, she's fantastic. Her character was always a piece of crap, which is obviously what we see, but that's kind of the point of a bad guy. So anyways, so that was a good step. Nick Khan, I don't know much about. We kind of blamed him for a lot of the releases. No real evidence towards that he caused that. But anyways, that was fine. The big victory was Triple H being in charge of creative. We had seen the success he had in NXT in the Black and Gold brand from his, I guess, not acquisition of it, but when he started really heading it, 2015 era, up until close to the pandemic when he had to step away due to health reasons, and then eventually him losing that control and Vince kind of taking it over after the failed Wednesday Night War with AEW and NXT transferring over to Tuesday TV. So we were excited for that as fans, just because a lot of us fell in love with the Black and Gold brand. It was that cool alternative to mainstream WWE with the PG era and just like different storytelling, and obviously all the indie talents that were getting more of this bigger stage to work on and the work rate and the matches, etc., etc. So we get that. So now he's in charge of everything. He seems to mainly be focused on the main roster stuff, so your Raw SmackDowns, and then HBK Shawn Michaels seems to have taken over the NXT branch and taken what Hunter did in the past, what Vince attempted to do with 2.0 of this whole developmental, not that NXT wasn't developmental, but like a real training facility, I guess you could say, or at least a more of a learning, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It was a lot of talent that had never wrestled before, and they were just bringing in athletes. So we kind of took both of these and melded them into something that works, I think, very, very well right now in terms of what NXT is now, kind of this hybrid. And the main roster stuff, while I know it hasn't clicked always, or like, hasn't reached everybody's expectations, I think it's still been more exciting than the product was in the past, and more interesting as some talents were brought back, some storylines are kind of being built on. There's certainly hit or misses, but it felt like a step in the right direction that with time, this would become something better and more beneficial than, say, the days of old. And not that, I can be a hypocrite here and say, oh, everything WWE did sucked when Vince was in control. No, there were certainly a lot of things that were maybe not the best decisions, or things that, didn't connect or resonate at all times. But there was a lot of good stuff that had happened while he was in charge. It just, at points, it felt stale. So with this whole change of creative and Triple H being in charge and it seeming like more of a collaborative process, things were interesting, things were exciting. And this kind of fueled that fire of interest in wrestling a lot more than it kind of had felt recently. Like AEW is another example of that. Once that started kicking in and they got their footing, like that was another thing that kind of added to the fire of like, yes, this is something I want to watch, participate in, consume time and energy into absorbing that content. And with this change, that felt like more of that, which is good, which is, you want it to be exciting. Once it starts getting stale, feeling the same, it's like, why am I even watching this? Why am I putting my time into this when I don't feel rewarded as a viewer? Not because everything I want is coming true, but is the content they are producing engaging enough with me that I feel like I want to return and come back and, keep that investment going, right? And that could go for any product, whether it's a show, a movie, whatever it is. If, you put that time in there, you want that story, that entertainment, whatever it is, to have some sort of return for you. So with this, it felt like a step in the right direction. So anyways, this happens around July or August. So we get about 6 months or so of the new regime. This leads to, like I said, a lot of positive changes, at least in my opinion. We got some talents that were coming back who were released, maybe unfairly, which, most releases are very sudden, at least in the WWE terms. A lot of people that didn't feel like they got a chance were coming back. So cool to see that. A lot of people I was particularly selfishly interested in kind of backing. So, Karrion Kross, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, it seems like Sanity's coming back and some other talents. Cool to see that. Cool to see that change. Like I said, cool to see the NXT kind of melded the black and gold brand and the 2.0 stuff, and they seem to be heading in the right direction, or at least a more engaging direction that I didn't feel with the 2.0 stuff, and seeing that talent kind of rise and do some good stuff down there. So we had this transition, and it seems like, once again, from a far outside source, so who knows, I could just be spewing out garbage right now, but it seems like it's a more positive atmosphere, workplace, place to be right now compared to what it was. A lot of talents have come out, whether they work with the company or not, especially those release talents when they're doing their interview loops afterwards, saying like they had positive things to say about Triple H, so it would seem like that's the direction they're going, of positive growth. So that's great. So we get to this past month, and boy howdy, how things have changed. I don't know exactly what caused the spark of energy, but it's all kind of happened in a rapid succession, or at least it feels like it, and maybe that's why it feels like more of a tense, stressful situation overall. So Vince retires, like we said. He's still got majority sharehold of the company, yada, 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 whatever. But he doesn't sit on the boards or anything like that. At one point, after things have kind of cleared, they haven't, as far as I know, gone to court, settled anything, etc. It's just more the pomp and circumstance, or the chatter kind of subsided, where he's like, okay, I want to come back, to WWE. I want to come back into the board. And the board unanimously said, no, we don't want that. That's not great. And I get it, obviously, regardless of, not regardless of the allegations, but you have something like that come out, and at least at this point, nothing's cleared, whatever it is. You wouldn't want to bring back in that kind of like, not darkness, but questioning attitude of like, oh, so-and-so did this thing, that's really bad. Oh, but he's still right there. That doesn't look good for your company. So I get that. So they unanimously say, no thanks, stay over there. He then threatens, as the majority shareholder, that with media deals coming up, etc., nothing's going to be decided without his involvement. And this is where we start getting to the ick. So he holds it over their heads, the company's heads, and being like, well, you're not going to be able to move forward from this without my approval, essentially. Somehow a revote happens, and unanimously they said, yep, you can come back in. So he's back, not as CEO, but chairman of the board. Okay. And to me, that just seems gross. Like we said, you wouldn't want this person in there because of, the negative connotation of what had potentially happened with him in the past. And as far as I know, no evidence hard clearing him anything. And I get, innocent until proven guilty. I get that. But with everything still up in the air and the question marks, it's like, do you risk that kind of negative press, or, do you let it you just nip it in the butt, cut it out, let it, rest on the side. I don't know if this was enough time frame of a cool down to get that past that point. And obviously, clearly, no, because I'm me, once again, lowly peon down here. It's still, not a great thing. And I've heard that from a lot of other people, sources, that they're like, no, this is not great. So anyways, he also manipulates to get back, which doesn't seem like a positive thing for any company trying to grow, that someone's holding the company hostage and not allowing it to grow, regardless of, I get he is a majority shareholder, but with it being public, that doesn't seem, like I said, something, a positive direction that could be had from that. It doesn't seem like something viable. So anyways, he gets back in, apparently fires some people on the board, replaces them with others who he had worked with in the past and also fired. And now it's all about a sale. Apparently he wants to sell it and feels he's a critical part into making it the most profitable it can be for a sale. So, okay. So we're all freaking out. Because, well, first he's back in. So it's just like a matter of dominoes. Like, when's the next thing going to fall into the next, into the next, into the next, and the next. And we kind of get our first evidence of that, or our first take of that, with shortly after he's back, Stephanie, who was co-CEO at the time, decides she's going to leave and resign fully from the company and, enjoy her time at the home. Now, granted, good for her. I know a while ago she kind of wanted to take a leave. I don't think it was a full, retire or resigning kind of thing. I think it was just more like, I'd like to take some time, spend some time with the family, relax, rest, because she's been working for quite a while. And I know her and Triple H have, I think, 2 younger kids. So I get that, nothing wrong with that. She decides to resign. So from her perspective and her health and her family, great. Do what you got to do. The timing of it, just very sucky. So he comes in, she's fully out, making the other guy full CEO. I don't know his relationship with Vince, if they're real tight, whatever. So she's out. So just with recency, it's like, oh, there's the domino. Now people are wondering and freaking out, oh, when's the next domino going to fall? And either Triple H is out completely as well, or does he lose creative power and we just go back to, what we previously had? So that also leads to the thought of, oh, what happens with all these talents that we brought back, or that were potentially, on the track to be brought back? Are they released again? Are those deals not solidified, or just kind of cut in the process, or not even granted moving forward, whatever it is? I don't know. So we're in this state of flux of like, oh boy, let's see what happens. Now, as of Friday, as of recording, apparently Triple H had a meeting with everybody, says he's still in charge of creative. Vince is just there for the sale, and we're going to go from there. Glad they had that discussion. If that's the case, fine. If that's really what he truly wants to do, wants to sell the company and then fully retire, okay, I could deal with that. I don't know how specifically that works with all the shareholders being a publicly traded company and then maybe going private, or how. I have no idea how that works. That is leagues and leagues above my knowledge bracket or whatever. But if that's his intention, fine. Now we get to the interesting stuff. Obviously, this could all just be, internet speculation, panicking, drama, whatever. Then we start hearing about all the potential salespeople that they could sell to. Everybody's listing off networks, Disney, Fox. Well, I guess Disney, Fox is one thing. Comcast, yada, yada, yada. The cons were thrown in there. So like AEW folk buying or being interested. And then the biggest red flag was Saudi Arabia. Some kind of independent, not firm, but collection fund. I don't know. Whoever controls or bought that soccer team, U.S. Emirates? No, I could be wrong with that. They bought a soccer team not too long ago. And apparently they would already have the deal or have struck the deal or whatever. And everybody's freaking out because of that. And, once again, not to be dramatic, but if there is, a lot of people have asked, because obviously we've voiced our frustrations here with how things have run or ideas that didn't go right by our standards. Like, what would be the final straw for you in WWE? What would make you stop watching? And I think that's the one. I think if they sold to Saudi Arabia, that would be like, all right, yep, I'm done. Chalk it up. It's been a fun ride. That is frightening just because obviously, if they're honest in what they're trying to change for themselves, great. We want to be optimistic here. But their track record, they have a long ways to go in terms of equality and women's rights, LGBTQ rights. There's a lot of progress that needs to be made. And if they're not sincere with, I don't know what their growth in those areas are, but if they're not willing to progress in those areas and move forward towards a more positive and inclusive light, and they buy WWE, that's a big step backwards in terms of a lot of things. And I would fear for a lot of the talents that are involved in the company and the employees themselves, obviously, as well. Just like big yikes. So since everybody freaked out about that, reports have come out saying it's not the case. There is no deal, but nothing is set in stone now. And now we're in this big limbo area of like, they want to sell. Who are they going to sell to? What's going on? Now, let's get our thinking caps on and let's talk about what I would prefer here. Like I said, if Vince wants to sell, and that seems to be the case, and that's just all he wants to do, and then he can go off into the sunset and do his thing, fine, I get it. Would I have preferred, the more linear progression a lot of us thought it was going to go to the kids, etc.? Yes, but whatever. If he's just there for the sale, fine. Who do I want to buy this thing? I really don't know. My biggest concern, let's list my 3 things. 1, Saudi Arabia. Don't do it. That I already talked about that. Nope, no thank you. AEW, we talked about Tony Khan, allegedly. This could also just be scuttlebutt for people to get likes and clicks on articles, all that jazz. Let's say Khan is interested and buys it. I think that is an awful move because it's not a monopoly again, but we're back in the situation that we were in before AEW came about. AEW's been great. AEW has brought a lot of energy and excitement around wrestling again, right? However, for all the things that AEW does right and the excitement it brings and all that jazz, there is a lot that probably isn't the best, like how they use talent from time to time, how their relationships backstage are, and seems like they have a lot of drama. Look at all AEW Brawl Out. All out Brawl Out. Look at all that jazz. Look at all the other drama that's come out of people not getting along. Tony already owns Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is already on a rough spot of launch point. Granted, WWE's a way bigger market, or at least name value, than a Ring of Honor, so I don't think TV deals would be that more difficult to acquire, or renew, or whatever it is. But he's got already 2 companies that he's trying to run. He can't even figure that out right now. Granted, I'm sure he's working on it. And that's going to pull him in another direction. The man has AEW, Ring of Honor, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Congrats on your comeback victory the other day. Some soccer league, I don't know. The man doesn't sleep, apparently. And, how is he going to split more attention up and work on this thing? I have no idea. So I don't think that's a great move. in terms of wrestling. Just because, well, that's a whole nother talent pool, and both WWE and AEW rosters, you can have the argument, are overabundant or just have too many talent to go around, or, to kind of manage all that shit. Now, picture that and double it. Like, oof. Granted, yes, I understand you have now twice as many television areas to put the talent, but still, big oof. Just kind of frightening in terms of management, and once again taking that step backwards of monopoly instead of where we were going with more competition. And granted, indies have always been around, whether it was your smaller stuff like your PWG or your GCW, but now your medium stuff like Impact is still sticking around. Obviously New Japan is a beast you're never going to touch, as it's a whole different audience, but like the smaller promotions have been around, but it was nice to kind of have more of a gradual scale of size where, obviously WWE is still the tip top. You had this AEW where it's this middle to higher, this Impact to where it was here, and then you have, your wide array of companies that are gaining momentum themselves, especially with the era of social media and everybody sharing and things like that. But to limit that again by joining these two, I don't think would be a step in the right direction. So that's my second personal, don't do that. My third fear, okay, we sell, hypothetically, I don't know, any network. You can name anybody. Fuck it. Disney buys them. Mickey Mouse is going to lay the smack down on everybody. Whoever buys them. My fear is just that they're going to take their people, which I get. They're a company. They take their people and they just replace everybody in terms of not the wrestlers themselves, because, they're not going to have that abundantly, but creative, whatever, production, all that jazz. Take these people who don't know, don't have the experience, throw them over here and just be like, okay, we're going to do this thing now. That's a big fear. We saw it with early stages of WCW, their, whole mix up of who's in charge, what's going on, direction, yada, 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 until we got to, Bischoff and obviously the success that he had. Once we kind of got to the Russo stuff and then Bischoff a little bit out of control, obviously that kind of affected WCW's future. But for a while, obviously WCW was in the right hands, blew up, NWO, all that stuff. A little rough in the early stages. And I don't want that to happen here where it just blows up in everybody's faces. And obviously all those people lose their jobs, whether it's production, wrestlers, whoever. Granted, it could take a lot of time to get to that point, but that's just a fear from my perspective. I'm like, oof, that's not great. My ideal situation, Vince is gone, but, doesn't seem like we're getting that. Sale goes through, everything's peaches and creams, and it's just, hey, you do this well. Do it. And by you do this well, I want Triple H in charge. Like I said, it seems like this past 6 months when he was in charge, at least creatively, and then, the new management, it seemed like things were, from a workplace standpoint, granted, once again, I'm not involved in that directly. I'm not talking to anybody directly, so this could all just be, a million miles away, me looking at a dot and being like, oh yeah, that looks good. It sounded like things were going in the right direction there. From a fan perspective, things were more exciting. The Royal Rumble's coming up. This probably was one of the Royal Rumble most excited I've been for a Royal Rumble in a few years. Obviously, it's always fun, but this was one just exponentially. The excitement was growing, and then obviously WrestleMania coming up, and they did their UK event, which was a lot of fun, and they're going back there for Money in the Bank in, I think, July. Like, things seem to be going in the right direction from an excitement level from a fan perspective as well. I would love for that to continue and for someone to recognize that and be like, hey, we are just now, it's just under our umbrella. Now do that, what you're doing, and bring it to the next level that you can, kind of thing. That would just be my hopes and dreams for that. Now, if the other shoe falls, if the other domino falls, and let's say Triple H is out. Oh, okay, well, first off, a little bit of a more... the sirens are going off, and like red flag, red flag, red flag. If you want to get hypothetical, do Triple H and Stephanie then buy the company? I don't think they have that much money, but who knows? Or do they start their own thing? That could be something. That would be interesting. But now we're getting to the real hypotheticals, and it's hard to even not talk about it, but even think of what the rational hell what could happen. Who knows? That is always a possibility that they could do that. There's always rumors swirling around that Triple H was going to buy Ring of Honor when they were going for sale. NWA right now tries to do stuff, and there's a lot of shit right now with Nick Aldis taking off and Tyrus being the champ with his controversial stuff. I don't know. There's been talk of that. Maybe that would happen. Nothing serious, obviously, just all pie in the sky stuff. Who knows? The main thing here is we just want things to head in a positive direction from a company standpoint, a worker standpoint, everything. We just want things to be good, and it seemed like with the change at the top, regardless of how it may have happened, that seemed to be the way that they were headed, and that was good. Definitely good. Now, we do have one more final, step to the puzzle, at least right now, or piece to the puzzle. So Vince is back, and he's looking to sell. Remember that icky part I told you about, how he's holding it hostage, and that didn't feel right to me? Allegedly, now some other shareholders, stockholders, whatever you'd like to call them, are now suing Vince because of his actions and trying to, I guess you could say, be malicious against the company. And in my opinion, good on them. Because to me, that's not right. And, once again, I get it. Major shareholder, you want to say you own the company or whatever it is, or you have the most say, you got the biggest dick in the room, however you want to phrase this. I get it from that perspective. I own 54%, whatever it is. I should have the most say. However, outside looking in, I don't understand how you can expect your company to move in a positive direction after something like that. How does that not put a sour taste in other shareholders' mouth, your employees, your coworkers, everything? It kind of seems like a scumbag move, So we'll have to see where this goes. I don't know. There's been rumors of other shareholders also joining in on this. I don't know the success rate of this. We all know that rich white guys always get punished for the things they do. No, that doesn't happen. So, I don't know. It's a weird, I guess it's just a wait and see moment, as with everything, I guess. All the stories are growing and ever changing, but it's just I don't, that's not something you do or something positive. I understand you're in a shitty situation, but guess what? You kind of put yourself in that shitty situation. So that's on you, brother. I don't know. It's all very icky. From a fan perspective, like I said, how Vince has run this company, or at least the entertainment he has provided, yes, we have enjoyed the ride we've been on. There's been a lot of ups. There's been a lot of downs. Don't get me wrong. From that perspective and a booking perspective, I respect his history and what he's done for WWE since WWF and, WWF, from his dad and all that jazz. Fine. Good. As a person, no, we're done. We're good. I wouldn't. No, go away. We're just gonna have to see how things play out. It seemed like a lot of things was coming out. Rapid fire news stuff. Sale wise, it looks like they want to do it within 6 to 9 months. I understand that could be a whole process, and like I said, I don't know how that works out from a publicly traded company to a private company, if that is the way it goes, or however. I don't know that process. I have no idea. I assume that's a whole shit ton of paperwork that somebody will have to do, but that's not something you're just going to be like, okay, I want to sell. Next day, bam, it's done. There's got to be some process that has to go through, if and when that is going to go through. So we'll have to see how things go from here. Heading into the Rumble, heading into WrestleMania, heading into anything past this point. How does creative change? If it does change, how does it move, progress, anything? We'll have to see. Yeah, Rainbow in chat. I feel like Vince can't get what he wants. He would destroy the company, but I don't know wrestling. Exactly. And it's, from a logical standpoint, I agree. 100%. Like, I don't see how him threatening his own company, or where he has the shares in, how that can lead to anything positive of like, yeah, this is someone I want in a position of power, or something I want to invest in, or like all this negative press. And I guess you could say negative press is good press because you're being talked about. Who knows? I don't see how this positively helps anything or grows anything, but what do I know? Once again, it's a situation of like, oh, all these people do bad stuff and nothing happens to them. Who fucking knows where we go from here, how this happens, or what does happen to him or anybody else. We have seen other people who were tied to him when the initial allegations happened. They got punished. They lost jobs. They kind of were the, what do you call it? The fall guy, I guess you could say. And that's a small victory, but obviously, you can chip away at the village, but if the castle's still there, that's, that's probably a bad analogy. I don't know. It's rough. So we'll have to see. We'll have to take it day by day, see where this goes and progresses, and hopefully not have panic attacks over it, or at least from my perspective. But yeah, just sucks. Very shitty situation from a fan perspective, and I just really hope that everybody directly involved is okay. My biggest concern is with the employees and the talent. Like, how do they feel mentally, especially talents that had just come back, or people in the back who were brought in, or even people, once again, that were talking about showing up soon, because it seemed like Vince being gone was a very big draw in from a talent perspective. Hello. Of coming back. It's like, do you just instantly fear for your job again? Because you obviously got released once under main man. What's going to change it now? Obviously their work ethic hopefully, backs up what they can do and then proves to them, but it's hard to say. Seems like a lot of companies try and trim the fat before they sell for reasons, once again, I don't know. I'm not a business major.